just starting out, but we had terminals. And we had a lot of mainframe programmers coming in and trying to learn servers and software and things like that. So I had a huge training center, and I had terminals, and people would come in and they would do training. And then I also had a big consulting firm, and we did business coaching and business training, and we did leadership skills, and we were constantly having people move through our business. Then I had another section, so I had 3 prongs. I had a training prong, I had a consulting prong, and then we had a software development prong. And those were programmers that we would bring in to create software. Now, that was in its infancy, right? Like, nobody was doing that. People were moving from mainframes to servers, and so everybody needed software. And I knew from working with Johnson & Johnson and working with Secor, I knew that there was this need. Well, I have never been the smartest person in the room, but I could dial the telephone, and I had made so many connections. I've got the best programmers from every language, and I convinced them to move to Montreal, because that's where I opened up my business. Convinced them to move to Montreal, and we opened up this arm that did nothing but program. Well, I'm going to tell you a little bit about the business, just so that as I get into Traction, you'll see why I needed Traction. So the programmers, they're just a different breed. You know, none of them wanted to work at 9 in the morning. There's like, they came in at 12, they left at midnight. Sometimes they came in at 3, they left at 3 in the morning. I mean, that's just what they wanted. They wanted no lights, total darkness. They hung curtains. They wanted artificial lights. They wanted no walls. They didn't want desks. It was like a beehive. Like there's this like, huge table, and they would sit opposite each other, like bounce ideas off each other. It was like this like creative aura that you would go into. And so the programmers were on like one side. I had this huge training building, really big. And one side was totally devoted to them. One side was totally devoted to classrooms with terminals where we would do training. And then we did a lot of government contracts. So the government, like they might send us, conflict resolution or anger management, things like that. So privacy was a really big deal, right? So I had to have a section that was like totally cut off, and they could come in a different door and all of that. So the reporting for all of this, we didn't have email. That didn't exist, right? We had chimp mail when it first came out. We didn't have email. If you could not get somebody when you rang the telephone, you just didn't get it, because we didn't have cell phones. We had pagers later on, but we didn't have any of this stuff. So you had to actually phone somebody, actually walk in their office, actually yell down the corridor if you were going to talk to somebody. So it made communication a lot more difficult than it is for us today. Well, our programmers, it was really expensive to program. So what would happen is we would have to ask our clients for retainers, like $15,000, $20,000. Well, that's a lot of money now. That was a whole lot of money back then, a whole lot. So what we had to do was we had to account for every 10-minute slot, 15-minute slot for the programmers. What were you doing, right? So for an hour, they would have to log all of their time specifically, so that when we got to the client, we could say, this is where your money's gone so far, and this is how much, now we need some more, so we constantly had to account. Now you guys use Clio, right? So you guys have timers in Clio. We use Clockify now, but back then we didn't have timers. So you would go by this little creative area, and all you hear is ding, 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 ding. They had kitchen timers, they had their little computers that would ping every 10 minutes, and everybody would scratch down, how much time they'd spent on whatever. So it was just a lot of work. It was a lot of stuff. We were dealing with the government. We had defense contracts. Now people will laugh and they go, Canada had defense contracts? So I'm like, yeah, we had 2 moose and a canoe, okay? But this was our defense contract. But we did, because this was all brand new, right? So we had a lead programmer, his name was Francois, and he actually has code on Hub. That's how smart he was. Right? Just the most amazing man. But anyway, he was my lead programmer, so he was kind of, my contact with everyone. Now, I had come from that because I had engineered in that, so it was something that I knew about, so I felt very comfortable with that arm of my business. So one day, we're just busy. The doors are bursting open. We have people coming in. We have more work than what we can handle. So one day, Susan comes in. She's the lady at the front desk, and she says, Lisa, if one more person walks through that door, I don't know what we're going to do. Like, we don't have enough room. We had so many people that they took out the closet doors and shoved my desk in the closet. And I'm literally, the louver doors are off, and I am in the closet with my little stuff, because that's the only place to be, right? We needed wall stretchers. So we needed wall stretchers, we needed a better communication system. So all in 1 week, this kind of rolled up. So Francois, who never talks, okay? So all my programmers wore Birkenstock sandals. Canada, winter, no socks, ever. Never saw them in any socks. And all they did was eat ramen noodles. They would eat ramen noodles and drink copious amounts of coffee. And so Francois, we never really talked a whole lot. So I'm in my closet. Francois comes up, he says, Lisa, we're busy. I said, yes. He said, I'm tired. But I got you. Because I had this feeling, you know, just walking the hallways. It was just like, we were so busy, there was a din when you walked in the door. It was like just papers and people and stuff and conversations. And you would go to one pocket and have a conversation and go to another pocket of people and have a conversation. But we were so busy, there was no opportunity for all of us to gather together as a group. I couldn't take everybody offline. I just couldn't. So we were doing well. We were successful. So if you wanted to say, was this a successful company? We were. We were making more money than we were putting out. We could buy anything we wanted. Like if we needed a new terminal, which were expensive, or we needed something over here, we had the money to go do that. We had people that liked each other. We had a good culture. People wanted to have lunch together. They wanted to go out after work on weekends and spend time together. We loved each other. We were good for each other. But we were just surviving. Like that was it. It just, when Francois came to me and he said, Lisa, I'm tired. I was like, oh, okay. When Francois is tired, we are in trouble. So that same week, we had a miscommunication in the company. Remember, we don't have emails. We don't have any of that. We had a significant miscommunication that really could have had significant consequences. It did have ramifications, but they could have been a lot more significant. We kind of squelched that fire just as quick as we could, but I thought, oh, there's got to be a better way. So, you know, God always has these things, right? So that same week I go to a symposium. And it's one of those symposiums where there's 10 seminars going on at the same time. You know, you have a little list and you walk and, you know, go see whichever one you want. So there was this one called operating system. Since we were in the computer business too, I thought, oh, they must mean computers. I should go sit in on that. So I go in and there's this guy named Rick. He's at the board and he's talking away. And as I walk in, he's saying, are you, and he's looking at the audience, he says, are you guys using your employees to the best of their ability? Are they able to do what they do best? Or are they stuck doing other things over and over and over again? Is it overcomplicated? Is everybody double checking on what someone else is doing because there's no clear path forward? Are there lists that aren't complete? Are people don't know who they have to sign off on something? Are people busy doing busy work when you're paying them to be who they are the best at being? Do you know what your people, are they happy? And I was like, So I sat down and he says, there's a better way. There's a better way. But now he was talking about large corporations. So he was in there doing an enterprise, which means any company 250 and above. And I got my little 20-person company, right? So we had started with 3, and in 16 months we onboarded up to 20. And you think about that. 16 months, I went from 3 people to 20 people. So I thought I had done a really good job, right? I've been in corporate for years. Come on, it can't be that hard, right? Like, you know, I had a huge team when I was in corporate. When I was at J&J in Europe, oh my gosh, I had like 200 people. So I said, okay, when I'm going to start my company, I'm going to create a huge foundation. And I'm going to build my company, and I'm going to have lots of extra, no problem. Well, I built a huge foundation, and I onboarded, and I had 20 people. And the processes and the stuff were just sagging over us. The stuff you need to do your job was just overwhelming us. And so we just started to sag. So my little foundation that I had built here, there was all this stuff that had no foundation underneath it. And so when that Rick was up there and he was saying, there is a better way, and you can do this, I was like, all right, let's do it. Well, anyway, I go back to work and I chew on that for about a week. One day I got up and I said, that's it. Okay, that's it. So I called Rick and I said, Rick, you don't know me from Adam's House County. I said, you don't. I said, my name is Lisa Gagne. I said, I run a 20-person company and I need you to come talk to us. I said, because I need what you're doing. And he was like, yeah, okay, sure, I'll go do that. So he came 2 weeks later. He said, but I'm going to tell you something. I'm not going to tell you what I'm going to talk about. And he said, and I want every single person in your company. took everybody offline, took everybody out to the provincial park, right? Had a nice buffet, kind of, and this really reminds me of our first meeting. This really does remind me. So really, I had an idea because I'd seen his little seminar, but I hadn't seen the whole thing, but I just liked what he was saying. So he came in, and he's telling us all about it, and I'm leaning forward, and I am in 110%. He's going, you know, we can do this and this. I was like, yes, we need that. Yes, we need that. That sounds good. This will fix this problem. This is wonderful. And I'm all leaned in because there are 6 core processes we're going to talk about. 6 things that if you keep your eye on, if you keep the eye on that ball, you can do whatever you want with your company. You can grow exponentially, and that thing will just grow with you as you go. It's like a sponge that just fills up with water. So anyway, he's talking about the processes, right? I'm in, and I'm like, oh, this is right. And he's drawing pictures, and then, you know, and I'm all in, and he gets to this one, and he starts to talk about it, and he doesn't miss a beat, right? He's up there drawing. He says, you know, we can hear you, right? And he turns around and looks right at me. And the rest of the team turns around and looks right at me. And I've got my finance guy beside me, and he leans over and he says, are you all right? And I said, yeah, why? And he says, because you're making noise. And faces. And he got to that one part, and I couldn't wrap my head around it. Honestly, I was like, I was unconscious. I had no idea I was making faces. None. And I was back there and he goes, stop. And I was like, what? And he's like, I was all in until we got to this one part. And I said, oh God, you want me to do what? Oh, geez. And I'm back there thinking of the logistics of it, right? Like how, I'm like, oh, I'm going to lose people. They're going to say, I love you, I love what we do, but I am out of here. And I was like, oh God. And that's all my head had. And so the finance, I had Francois over, about where Phil is. And Francois, you know, he's got the long hair, his old Birkenstocks, you know, he looks at me and goes, no big deal, you know, I was like, okay, all right, let me just take a moment. So I'm saying all this to say this. If at any point today I'm going to be saying some pretty weird stuff, because you've never done one of these before, and it's different. And if I say anything today that you want to kind of roll your internal eye or take your buddy next to you, I'm good, I got this. I have no problem with that, because that's what I did, okay? But now, we implemented this thing, wasn't half as hard as I thought it was going to be. It was not. Roll forward 6 months. Now, EOS runs in 90-day segments, 90 days. So, segment 1, you know, 4 of those make a year, right? So it kind of makes sense quarterly. But anyway, it rolls in 90-day segments. You roll forward 2 90-day segments, right? So 6 months out, we are not the same company. I mean, because we were surviving, we were not thriving. Big difference. We were surviving. We were making money. We looked great from the outside. No one would have ever known that we were having to come back on weekends. We were having to come back at night. We were sitting at home 3 o'clock in the morning. Oh, did I do that? God, I hope I sent that. I hope I told so-and-so this. Hope that room's available. Oh, right? We were surviving. So this allowed us to implement something that allowed us not just to survive, but to thrive. And that is such a better picture. Because it was like we had grown a garden of tulips. So what happened was I had one large training center, right? 6 months out, people are able to go home when they want to go home. We had a good work-life balance because before, now I'm sorry, programs were still coming in 3 o'clock in the morning. You're not going to change that. That is what it is. But everybody had a good work-life balance, right? Everybody was loving what they were doing. But here's the catch, right? When you can thrive and not survive, you get your head up out of the weeds, you look around, and you see opportunities that have walked by your door all day long that you have never been able to see because we all had our heads down in the weeds, right? We're just children. We're just getting it done. If you don't raise your head up, then you're just a business, right? It hit me like when our front desk came out and said, oh no, we don't want anyone else to walk through the front door. It's like, then why are we open? If we can't take more business, then why are we here? Let's go do something else. Isn't the whole purpose to be able to expand and grow and dig? Because that just didn't make sense. So I'm here to tell you, I know, I understand. When we start putting names beside stuff and all this, they call it accountability, people are like, oh, that's all I need. I've been through it. So what I did, so when this was over, now this is a year-long process, okay? So you start now, and there are 20 tools in the toolbox, and I'll explain all that in a minute, and it takes basically a year to get around to all 20 of them. Some of them you use, some of them you don't. So I took that template because 9 months out, 6 months we looked beautiful. We were thriving. 9 months out, we were really thriving. We had our heads up. We were watching opportunities go back and forth across the road. We were snatching them. And the other great thing that happened was I had such highly qualified people. I had the best of everyone. My front desk was amazing. My finance was amazing. I had just super great people. And they had great ideas. But we couldn't work on their ideas. We couldn't bring their ideas to fruition. We were too busy children. I mean, we were just getting done what we were trying to get done. This allowed everyone to grow. It allowed every one of my team members to grow, to do things they never thought they would be able to do. They wanted to cross-train. They wanted to get into subjects that they hadn't before. It was such a growth, internal growth period, not just external growth period for us. So basically, I went from one huge training center. After the 9 months, we had everything templated. And within a year, I took that, I replicated that same business downtown Montreal, which was super impossible to do. And I also started one in Ontario, which was our neighboring province. So basically, like, probably the distance from here to like Starkville, Mississippi kind of deal, okay? So, and how could I do that? Because I had a blueprint. Because I knew I had all this. I had all this business under control. And I had a vehicle for allowing every single one of my team members on a weekly basis to be able to catch up. So left hand, right hand, everybody knew what everyone was doing. We knew we could kill a problem before it became a problem, because as soon as anything happened, you've got 7 days between each weekly meeting. Not too much can happen in 7 days if you're addressing stuff every 7 days, right? So we didn't have a lot of the issues that we had before, which are, we weren't a bad company, we were a very good company. But issues are issues, and people are people, and processes are processes. So I tell you all that to say, I understand that your business is a complicated business. I understand there's a whole lot to it. I understand that it takes a great deal of expertise to make all of this work, and you're all very, very good at what you do. But if right now you know that you have your head in the weeds because you have to, I'm just here to tell you there is a better way, and it's not that hard. It does take commitment, and it's one of those things you have to just be all in. And so all I'm going to do is just say, if you would do me this favor. So for this little bit of today that we get to be here, if you would just be open-minded and give this a little bit of time, okay? I'm going to write my name, my address, my whole thing. You can text me. You can email me and go, Lisa, like, really? What are you doing? I promise you that, okay? I promise you. So not only have I done this, so I business coach. So when I came to Canada, when I left Canada and came here, I just basically opened up my business again. But I didn't do it with, I ended up with 94 people, 95 including me when I sold my business. The day I sold my business, I had 95 of us. And we were thriving, and we were happy. And you're going to say, well, why did you move? I made a boy. That's all I have to say about that, right? Because, that doesn't need to make sense. That's just what happened. So how did I grow from 3? I started with 3 to 95. 3 huge offices, right? I did it because I used this as a backbone. Now, this is a different flavor. This is Gino Wickman. Okay, so he's, this I think was published in 2011. Well, I was doing this 35 years ago. It's basically the exact same thing because an operating system is an operating system. Now, some of the forms he uses are, probably different than the ones I used, obviously. Some of the terms he uses are different than the terms I have been using, so you might see me swap back and forth because I'm just so used to using the term needs versus the term issues, and he uses issues, so I'll probably bounce back and forth just out of sheer habit. But this works, and this is easy, and this allows you to do what you really want to do, which is be in your business to win it, right, for each one of you personally, and then for the business as a whole, oh, the places you can go is pretty amazing. So, having said that, you guys will just hang with me. I'll try and make it as easy as possible. And again, I was the one in the back of the room making faces, okay? So I get it. I'm the first one. I'm the first one to say I understand. Okay. Where did I put? There we go. So we're going to work on your business today, which is a whole lot different than working in your business. Working on it and working in it, two totally separate. So let's see how we might do that. Oh, well, and in the spirit of transparency, I do need to tell you this. I come from a very entrepreneurial family. My mom and dad had a business, I guess, which made me really want to have a business. And my husband owns his own business that he bought from his father, that he bought from his father, that he bought from his father. And this year, that business will be 116 years old. Okay? Here's the transparency. They do none of this. Lee's over there laughing, going, they do none of this. None Aggie. Okay, none. So they will be 116 years old, right? They started when World War I started. The telephone had just been brought into company. They were there with the invention of the television, the moonwalk, all the world wars, the Vietnam. They had done it all. They used to sell wild horses from out west. They used to bring them in on the train and bring them up over the mountain. Oh, the things. So, right? So you can't do it without it. It's not pretty, but you can't do it without it. But I will tell you this. We have an old safe, ancient old safe, like from the 1900s. And they had it open one day, and I try not to look at any of this stuff, really I do. But anyway, they had it open, and it had all these old ledgers. And so I just opened up one just out of curiosity. And honestly, there was and you could read it, it was so legible. And it was 1936 Dale Carnegie book. The only book. See, because we did Dale Carnegie in my business, right? We did Zig Ziglar and Dale Carnegie. We were certified. You name a certification, it was on my window, my training center. We had them all. The only book that Dale Carnegie put out in 36 was this one, How to Win Friends and Influence People. And if you have ever been in the store, you'll know that the 10 principles, the golden rules of Dale, that's exactly how they run their business, right? So, I don't know. But we're going to do a little bit more than that today. Okay, so EOS by Gino Wickman. Get on the same page and crystallize your vision. Isn't that good? Okay, everybody's got a piece of paper in front of them. Could you just roll it up like it's a Christmas card? Just fold it in half. Just fold it in half.
You better tell them which way to fold it, because there's conflict about it.
Hot dog or camera?
You don't listen. I don't care which way you fold it. Okay, so I don't know why the Wiggler worms piece of paper got in the paper I handed you. My son had a worm farm when he was little, and I think this goes back to his worm farm.
Because he has always been
Go fishing. He was an entrepreneur when he was 5. He used to grow vegetables, and when he was 6 years old, he used to drag a table out in front of my husband's business, and he used to sell the vegetables, and he used to tell people he had to sell them so he could buy medicine for his goats. And people would come into the store and say to my husband, "You're not going to give your child some money to buy medicine for the goats." And I was like, "Oh." Yeah. Well, Cole's out there, 50 cents, please. Kelly knows. She used to buy some from him. She was one of his best customers. But anyway. Okay, so open up that if you would, and just on one side. Kelly, can I borrow yours for a second? Just right here. I don't care if you want to do a portrait, landscape. I don't care. No one's going to see it. I'm not going to ask you to share it unless you want to. Okay, so write whatever you want. No dissertations. You guys are attorneys, right? No dissertation. Okay, so just write what you think the vision is for the company. What is your version of the vision for this company? Just 3-4 lines. You can do bullet points. Doesn't matter. Again, I'm not going to ask you just for your own. What do you think the vision is? How do you see the vision for this company? And when you're done that, go to another side of that page, wherever, and write down, if you would, why you like working here. Just a couple things. 2, 3, doesn't matter.
I'm just thought you wrote something.
I know, so I'm like, who stopped writing? Like, hey, no, I'm just kidding. Okay, all right, so wait, we're gonna look at that later, but anyway, just stick that in the shoe somewhere, wherever you want to stick it. All right. So you'll see that everyone has a binder in here. Beautiful binders, I might add, just gorgeous binders, thank you so much. And they have a lot of stuff in them. A lot of stuff we're not going to be looking at today. A little bit of stuff we are. So as we get in there, I'm going to let you know. So these are some of the books that Gino Wickman has written as add-ons to his Traction book. And I think I have a lot of them here. I have Traction. I have Get a Grip. I have What the Heck is EOS. That's a very, very quick read. Just gives you kind of a very summary sheet of what's going on. He does use some terms that I might just mix up just a little bit. So the agenda for today, sorry you can't see that red very well. Anyway, so the agenda on the left-hand side is just going to be the first things we're going to do. Okay, so we're just going to hit some of those things off. And then over on the right-hand side, that's when we're going to get into vision building. And that's when we are going to stop weeding, and we're going to get up in that 30,000-foot view, and we're going to get above the trees, and we're going to look at your business, because you are all in this business. This isn't a one-man show. You are all in this business. We are going to sit and look at your business from that view because it looks significantly different. And if it's not something you've done often, get used to it because you're going to be doing it all the time. So we're going to look at what that landscape looks like, what are the things we need to be identifying, and what's going to help us. So, now this, in your binders, you're going to see on the left-hand side, I believe Kelly put, there should be a colored sheet. Maybe something like that is called the EOS process. Okay. So, and did you do the other side too, Kelly? Okay. So it's kind of like, this is really their summary sheet of Gino Wickman's program. And all I want to do is show you this. This is what they call a proven process. So this is just like you know what an infographic is, just sort of a pictorial view of something very complex, a complicated process, just to make it easy for someone to understand how the workflow goes. So this is their proven process. And I got it up here. And I just wanted to show you where we are in this little. So we're doing the ramped up, we've got everybody offline, we got to get some stuff kind of done version. So whereas they would take 3 days to do that, we're going to do that in the morning. So, and we can, it's no big deal, right? We can move on with this. Now, what this looks like is, this is going to be our vision workshop here today. And then you'll see we start quarterly meetings, right? So this would be our first quarterly, and I'm hoping that'll be in April or May. You guys can tell me, but it would be nice for that to be in April or May. And then we go to the second quarter, third quarter, and then you kind of have an annual meeting. Is it a little bit of commitment in time? Yes, it is. Is it that much? No, it's not. You guys are working doing something anyway. I mean, really, think about it. It's going to be 6 months and 6 months anyway. It's going to be 3 months and 3 months anyway. You can be 3 months doing the same thing you're doing now, or you can be 3 months doing something totally different, something different working for you. So you know, that's kind of the way I look at it. It's gonna be three months and 3 months anyway. No, all right. So basically, it's a toolbox. Gino Wickman says, well, the O says I'll call it the OS because it was the operating system that I put in. We never put the E in front of it. They basically have 20 tools to them, and it is a toolbox. So what you do is over a year, you consume all 20 of those tools, okay, a little bit at a time. So that if you ever need them, you go, oops, you pick one out, you use it, you implement it, and you're fine, and you're good to go. But there are 3 that are core to any operating system. Forget Gino, forget any of them. There are 3 that you have to do. These are the ones you have to start, and you have to be consistent in, or none of the rest of it works, right? The others you can pick and choose as you want. It's like additions to a wrench, but you gotta have a wrench in your hand to do anything else with any of the other tools. So the toolbox is on the right-hand side, and like I said, it's like an operating system. And the one neat thing about this is if you think of an operating system on your laptops, right, your computers that you've got, which we never had, but these are beautiful, right? You open it up and there is a desktop. Most of you don't ever remember what it's like not to have a desktop, because what you had was a C prompt and a little cursor that was blinking at you, and it sat there, and it did nothing until you actually typed, go get this, go do this. It was horrific. But you guys have a desktop, and in the desktop you have icons, which represent all the programs, right? And you have a mouse, and you move around and you click on the icon and it opens up the program. Down at the bottom of your computer, you have a taskbar. Has anyone ever noticed on the right-hand side of your taskbar? It's called a notification. And so what does that do? It tells you when your computer needs the battery. It tells you if you have a virus. It tells you if you have too many programs open. It tells you it's your notification bar. And it's basically there to say, hey, I'm going to notify you when there's something going on that shouldn't be. That's what this toolbox does. You're gonna implement 3 of those, and one of those is going to be that little notification bar that says, whoop, hey, whoop, 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 whoop. We have a problem here. We have a gap. We have an overlap. And you're going to look at it and go, yes, we do, and you're going to deal with it. So it's very much like an operating system on your computer. These are priorities everyone gets to agree on, not just one person, not just one group, everyone. The left hand knows what the right hand is doing, and it gives you guys a common vernacular. So when, like, you're going to implement EOS. Well, if you go to another group of people and they also have implemented EOS, they'll know what a rock is. They'll know what a level 10 meeting is. They're going to understand that same vernacular that you're talking. And so there's something really neat about that. So everyone in your office then is going to understand the terms that Gino's using. So the ones we're going to look at, if you look up there, we're going to look at the EOS model. We're going to look at the first one, the star's not really showing up, but it's rocks. And we're also going to look at the next one over that says meeting pulse. And then the top one over there, which is the VTO. So we're going to first look at establishing rocks. You don't know what that means, and you shouldn't, because I haven't introduced it yet. We're going to look at something called a meeting pulse. We need rocks to do a meeting pulse, so we're going to do rocks, then we're going to look at meeting pulse, and then the rest of the afternoon we're going to look at vision. And we're going to look way out, see where you guys want to go, see what you're going to need in order to get there, right? So we're going to have the vision, we're going to look at where you are right now, we're going to establish a vision over here, which is going to be a lot bigger than where you are right now. We're going to figure out the stepping stones to get there. Those are pretty big stones. We're going to chop them up into things we call rocks, make them super consumable. I don't want a rock unless I can eat on it all the time and get rid of it, right? I don't want a rock. I want something that is consumable. How many times do you feel like there are so many projects to do, right? You don't have time to do the whole project, but you got a little bit of time. I've got 5 minutes right now. I'm going to make that phone call, or I've got 10 minutes here. I'm going to start to look at that list I need to complete, right? 20 sandwiches. You take a bite out of each sandwich. You're full. You're done. You're full. Is any sandwich gone? No. There's just a bite out of every sandwich. This allows you to say, hey, no 20 sandwiches, 3 sandwiches. These are the sandwiches we're going to eat right now. Get them done, and away we go. That's the way this operates. It seems so simple, and in fact, when I was back in the back of the room, making noises, I was thinking, my business is so complicated and convoluted, and there's so much to it. How could something this simple take care of all that? Like, I really, I'm the one that invited Rick to come and talk to us. But as he got talking, I was like, But it works and it's beautiful. It's beautiful. So let's look at some of those things. All right, so everybody has to have one operating system. Every company needs to only have one. Most companies have multiple. How many times have you ever lived in a different world where you had multiple bosses? And you go to one boss and he says, okay, need you to help on this project, and this is what we're going to do. We're going to do it A, B, and C. And you go, all right, and off you go, right? Well, boss number 2 comes in and says, oh, you're working on that? No, don't do it that way. Listen, we're going to do it MNOP. Let's go do it this way. And you go, oh, okay, so you start doing it that way. Nothing gets done. He's not happy. She's not happy. Nobody's happy, and nothing's complete. So you only need one system to work on. When you go into a business and there's no set processes and workflows established that are set, you make up your own, right? And we call it autonomy, and people love it. It's like, wow, I got to go in, I'm good at what I do, and they just kind of let me do my own thing. That's a wonderful thing. Well, yeah, try getting 94 people all doing their own thing. It doesn't work that way, What I wanted to do was have all those core things that everyone had to be doing it the same way, and then they could have the rest of the time to be creative at what they do best. I had no problem with being creative and you using your skill set to the best of your ability. But let's all do the foundational stuff the same way, so we all know where we are. So that's basically what this is looking at. If I don't find my clicker, I have no idea what I've done with that. So anyway, basically an operating system is how you organize your human energy, right? Because that's it, we all have human energy. And how are we going to organize that? So it's built for busy, small businesses. Wickman's is a little different than the original operating system I did, because mine was built for enterprise, and he specifically has said, let's look for a really small business, so they go from 10 to 250 people. So you guys are what, 13? Right, you guys are 13? Right, so you're gonna fit right in there. Greg knows what I've done with that, really.
She already had it out.
Yeah. I have no idea. Anyway,
It's
there it is. I see it right now. It's old. I'm old. I'm just here to tell you I'm old. I've been around for a very long time. All right. What I did was I thought, okay, now I have a lot of business clients now because I business coach, and I kind of do cross-industry. I do everything from government to defense. I do a ton of manufacturing because of the engineering part. So Honda, Hyundai, all of that, they do a lot of robotics. But I do training. Like, I'm not in with the robots anymore. I got away from that a long time ago, and I just do more training and facilitating and coaching. And I thought, okay, so you guys are the size you are. How many businesses are there? So I went back, and some of this data is old. That's just the way it goes. But I looked at how many small businesses, or how many law firms there were in the U.S., and they said there were about 446,000 plus, right? So then I said, okay, well, how big are these law firms? Because I wanted to see where your size was in all of that. And I did the little yellow arrow there to kind of depict, that's the 10 to 19. And as you can see, that's the gray. And you have to get really close, but it looks like there's about 165,000 of the almost 450,000 that are your size, okay? That's a lot of businesses, right? That's a lot of businesses. How are they all doing stuff? So I made a couple phone calls. So I found this one law firm, and they were running EOS, and they're up in Wisconsin. And they're lovely people. And I called them and I said, so hey, tell me the stuff you love and the stuff you didn't love. And the guy said, yeah, sure, I'll tell you. So we had a nice little conversation. And I said, okay. I said, because I'm going into a law firm, and I said, now I do, I've done law firms before, but I've never done a very small law firm. So I said, okay, so how does that look different? And so he gave me some suggestions, and he said, no, this worked, and this we had a little trouble with, and whatever. So I'm going to bring that to the table as we go through today. So we're going to look at vision, quarterly rocks, and level 10 meetings. And I'll tell you why they're called level 10 in a minute. So let's look at those 6 main functions. This says, and this is true, this is not just, business is business. It does not matter what industry you are in. A business is a business. And if you take care of these 6 things, they will take care of you. Let's start up at the top, vision, right? I can't even begin to tell you how many times I've gone into a company. Big, medium, small, doesn't matter. Usually I'll do like a little needs, which I didn't get a chance to do with you guys, where I go in and spend a couple of days in the business, just kind of float around and whatever. And I'll sit down with people and I'll say, hey, Jack, so, we'll chat, we'll be having lunch, and I'll say, so what's the vision for the company? And one of 2 things usually happen. I don't know, I mean, grow, we're gonna grow, you know, we're gonna get more people, we're gonna do some stuff. Or I'll get, oh, I know, we did this once, wait, there's a piece of paper somewhere, I thought, wait, I don't know, it's in a binder here somewhere, let me find it. Okay. So, this is how important vision is. Everybody needs to know the vision. Everybody needs to be able to spell the vision just like that. It needs to be as clear as a bell. Now what happens, when I started EOS, right, I had 20 people. So in 16 months I onboarded 20. I started the EOS system. And it occurred to me that we had a very clear vision when we had 3 of us sitting around the table designing what this company was going to look like. When I had 5, I probably, you know, had some meetings and discussed it. Do you know that when I had 20, half of those people couldn't tell you what my vision was? Not mine, what the company vision was. They kind of knew, but we had never sat down and discussed it and dissected it and talked about it and built it. That is my bad. My bad. So, vision. So we're going to ask ourselves 8 questions today. We're going to look at your vision. Data. Oh, people just love this one. Okay. So data, right? We love data. We can get so much data. We can get on our computer. We have the cloud. We can put as much data as we want. Well, if data is not actionable, if the data that you get, you cannot do something with that behooves you or moves you forward, then it's just data. And you need to pay your $10.99 a month and shove that stuff to the cloud and leave it alone. Because we get analysis paralysis, we get data overload. And then what happens is the fearless leader, Greg's gonna get all this data, it's gonna sit, he doesn't have time to deal with it, and he's gonna feel guilty. He's gonna say, there's a nugget in there, there's something in there I should be doing something with. No. If it's not actionable for you right now at 13 or 14, you leave it be. When you get 20, if there's some other piece of data you wanna bring down, you download that guy and off you go. But until then, if it's not actionable, it's noise, and we don't need it. So measurables. What are measurables? What do we mean by measurables? Anybody? And this is where team members go, oh, you want measurables. Believe me, you want those. That's the best thing you can ever have. Measurables. Great, give me an idea of a measurable.
Weekly retainer deposits?
Okay, yeah. Anybody else?
Hours billed per day.
All right, okay. What else?
Revenue reports.
Say it again?
Revenue reports.
Yeah, revenue, yeah, yeah. There's a whole lot of measurables that aren't tied to money, you guys, tons, right? What about, everyone's had a different learning curve when you come into a business, right? You may know what you're doing, you may have been a paralegal for years and years, but you weren't a paralegal at, you know, at Varner Law, right? So you have to kind of figure out how they do things. So there's a learning curve no matter where you go. Maybe you're a new attorney and you just have come out and you don't have a ton of experience, you got a couple of years. There's a learning curve, right? You want to cross-train. Those can all be measurables. These can be like personal measurables that you want to be able to task yourself with and say, hey, I've really been able to grow. This is what I want. So it's like a goal, but it's a measurable so that when you have an assessment, when, you know, everyone needs to sit down with the powers that be, you know, the fearless leader once a year and say, hey, and it needs to be both ways. You need to say, hey, this is what I think, you know, this is how I rate the company and how I feel, and here's the culture and blah, 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 and they need to be able to do the same. And you need measurables in order to do that. So when people think measurables are just about money, they're not. So right now, I don't think you guys really have any measurables. Am I wrong? Okay.
No.
So there aren't any spoken, all right? We're not going to deal with that today. That's for like one of those other quarters down the road. But that is something. That's one of the 6. And it's fine. You don't have them. It's no big deal. So let's go over to the other side, people. Right people? Just as important. Right seats. Do you have someone who has a wonderful skill set, but you haven't really been able to use them in that skill set because they're busy doing something else? Let me tell you about small business. There's something called chameleons. I had 3 chameleons. One was Rick, Robin, and Lori. And chameleons are the most beautiful things to ever hit small business. But they also can hide every one of your imperfections. Because they hide your gaps, they hide your overlaps, they hide what you're not doing right. Let me explain. So, a chameleon is a person that does really well at what they're doing, but they could do equally well if you ask them to do something else. So, oh, hey, I know you're doing this right now, but we have this special project. Do you have a little bit of time? Can you help us out? Oh, yeah, sure. Chameleons are always willing to help out. They're like, yeah, I can go help you with that. So they go help with that, right? And then you go, well, you know, I gotta kind of, could you maybe help over here? Yeah, sure, I can go help over there. Yeah, no problem. Right. Okay, so no problem. So you've got, so you're in this situation where you're kind of growing. It's my piano board. So here we go. So, right, so everyone's busy, everybody's got stuff to do, and here you are, but you have these special things that come up, right? So you got this little special thing right here. So we're gonna go, we're gonna say to this person, hey, do you mind? They're gonna say, yeah, no problem, I can go do that, no problem. And then we go, well, you know, we've got this thing right here. Oh, yeah, that's no problem, I can go do that. Oh, well, you know, we've got this other thing over here, can you help with that? Yeah, I can help with that. Now you get busy, doors bust wide open, right? You need that person over here. But the door's busted wide open. This needs to be done now. This needed to be done yesterday, and this is more important than ever. Hello? Right? So that's what happens. We pull people who, because they're chameleons, they can just as easily transition and do something else for you. So what happens is you get busy, and they hid the fact that you needed that position filled right there. They hid the fact because they were so good at the ability to move and transition. So all of a sudden your doors bust wide open and you have nobody in that spot and you need them. Or you have nobody in this spot and you need them. So chameleons are great because they allow you to have overlap. And you know what, when you're small, you don't ever sit down and say, hey, let's just hire somebody for the heck. You want to? Sure, let's just get a couple extra people. They can hang out, kind of follow us around. They'll be our extras for when we get busy. And then we just roll and roll, right? Who does that? You're small business, you can't do that. But the most beautiful thing are chameleons. So Rick was one of my chameleons, and he was just amazing, and he could do anything. And I lived in the only French province in Canada. So, you guys are attorneys, you don't understand. So, I lived in the only French province in Canada, so that meant, because I had a training center, every single thing I offered in English, by law, I had to offer in French. Really? So you're going to go to Word Perfect 101? Right? And there's one person in there who wants it in French and the rest are fine with English. Really? Rick was bilingual. I grew up, my father was French, my mother was English, so I was bilingual, but he was bilingual. He could teach anything. He was certified and everything. He'd go to the airport and get customers. It didn't matter. He would do it. Well, Rick decided to get married and go to Greece for his honeymoon. He was in a horrific accident. It was fine, but he stayed in Greece for 3 months in the hospital. Right? So he did everything. So here we are, he's in Greece, he's in the hospital, and I tell you what, my little business looked like Swiss cheese, whole. 4 months. And I was like, how did I let this happen? Like how? Wow, just wow. So here I am onboarding French trainers like crazy because by law, I've got to be able to. So if they came in, there were all of you, and everyone spoke English. And on the little sheet when you signed up, it said that it would be an English course. If any one of you, okay? So Beth comes up and she says, excusez-moi. And all she had to say was, I would prefer it to be in French. That meant I had to have another trainer come in, and everything that was said in English, he could translate into French, or she. Bizarre. And every piece of documentation that I put out had to be in French and English, and the French had to be one font size bigger than the English. So if I did it in Helvetica 12, it had to be available in French in Helvetica 13. Hence why I moved. I was just like, really? So see what I mean? So chameleons are beautiful, wonderful. You want to embrace them, and everyone needs them. But be aware, be very aware that that also can hide the necessity for people and resources. Doesn't matter. It goes both ways. So we'll talk more about right people, right seats. There's some great stuff to do with that, but we don't have time to do that today. But there's some great stuff to do with that. And then the infamous issues list, right? I call it needs, issues, and that, right? So what does that mean? I think you guys have them. Let me see. It's here somewhere. Oh, yes. Here it is. So Kelly sent me this issues list. And I've got it on my email, I send it to the printer, and I'm working on something else, right? Here, the printer. I was like, what? I'm like, holy moly. This is nothing. I've had people bring in documents of 50 pages. 50 pages. So, this is nothing. But operate more effectively, more efficiently, so that you're not in on weekends, you're not there late at night, you're not 3 o'clock worried about something, right? Let's make things simplified. Let's do that. But in order to do that, they have to appear somewhere. So this takes care of issues, and I'm going to show you a picture in a minute. You get traction by setting rocks and having weekly meetings. We're going to talk about that. And then the process section. Yeah, so that's not the one I was making a face at or anything. No. My heart is palpitating. Anyway, so that was the part that I guess I was mumbling in the back because I was like, oh yeah, this is great. Do what? I was like, you want us to do what? I thought, no. But it was not all that hard. And my team came to me later because I was Miss Cool Cucumber. I mean, nothing there. It didn't matter what happened. I would just put up fire and just keep walking. They had never seen me respond emotionally to anything. And after, my team was like, Lisa, we got this. We do this anyway, so we'll just write it down. It's not a big deal. We can do it. No big deal. They had it done in 3 months. The very first rock, done. Even Francois, the programmer, he comes over, eating his ramen noodles, or sandals and ramen noodles, and he says, no big deal. I'll write a program. I was like, okay, write a program. Just get it done. So that to me was the big thing. The rest I could handle. The rest made perfect sense. Documenting all of my processes, like all of it. I was like, but you don't understand. That doesn't make sense because I could have a customer come in and maybe they came from the government, it was anger management, and and then we had to report back to the government. Maybe it was court ordered and it was a lot of privacy issues and like HIPAA here and all that. But then maybe I had somebody come in and they were doing software development, and that can go a million different ways just depending on what happens. Like it's not A, B, C, D. The person could come in and it would be A, J, P, N, like you guys. I'm sure when people come through your door, you can't specifically say exactly what their journey's going to look like, can you? It depends on what people decide, right? And decisions that are made and what they want to do. Like it can go a myriad of different ways, and I thought that would be so difficult, and it wasn't. And it all fit. I don't even have, yes I do. Every bit of it fit in a binder this size. Every bit of it. And I just took this, duplicated it for my second one, duplicated it for my third, and off we went. And any time that we onboarded anybody, it was like, hey, have a read. There you go. Something changed. People love this thing so much. It was everywhere. And if we made a change to a process, they were the first one to print it out and stick it back in. Say, hey, made a change, put the little update at the bottom, and away we go. I thought it was going to be a hiccup, and it was not. So we want companies that are not only successful and smart. You guys are already successful. You're already smart. Let's just make sure you stay healthy, right? We want to thrive, not just survive. So when they say issue, though, I want to point this out because this is so important. Usually when people think of issue, they think of something that's not going right? A problem. But issues, that's why I call them needs, because this is what's missing out if you're in the weeds all the time, is the fact that you're missing opportunities, you're missing ideas, missing growth when you're just spinning. So this is called traction. Anybody go get your tires changed at the tire store? Don't you guys get like a tire rotation? I've got to do mine actually. For $29.99, I'm going to go down to Toyota and we're going to change my tires and rotate. When you get your car and you drive it off the lot, do you know what your tires are? You know what the PSI in your tires is supposed to be? Different for different cars, but just generally like 80 PSI is usually what a tire is supposed to be, right? And so, if now you've got some sports car or something, it's going to be a little different, but it's usually about 80 PSI, right? So if a tire, I am not an artist, but if a tire is like this, right? So 80 PSI makes it like this. If you go and get your tires rotated and changed, do you know what they come out with? Just do it for fun one day. They put in 40. Recommended, because you can look on the side of your tire and it tells you, right? If you look very, very small, it'll say the PSI that's recommended by the Michelin or whoever you bought your tires from, right? So let's say that on the tire it says 80 PSI. After you go for your tire rotation, you're going to come out, it's going to be somewhere between 40 and 50. And these are the tire rotation people. Why do they do that? Why do they take, because they can read. They're tire people. It says 80. Why did they give me 40? Smoother ride. Let them rush you around the corner. Kind of like that. But you know what? Dude, you know what else happens at 40? They wear out faster. Yeah. Come on back. Yeah, we can set you up in a new set of tires, no problem. Right? So even though this is recommended, this is where you get more traction, right? You want to make sure that you've got everything you need to get more traction. Don't let anybody tell you, just because it's easier, because they're going to wear you out, is what they do. So there we go. All right. Anybody like organizing? Anybody an organizer? Like, you know what I mean? Like label stuff, you put it away, certain spots. Anybody? Yeah?
I
Don?
know what a racer.
Yeah. All right. I can never find the clicker. Believe it or not, I am organized, but I can never find the clicker, or my cell phone most of the time. Compartmentalizing, right? Big deal when it comes to traction. But this is my favorite picture of traction. I'm a very visual person, and this says it all for me. When I see this, I'm just like, sold. Okay. So, you mean that I'm going to have access, totally, constantly updated, always moving, right? So as things fall off, they fall off. As new things come up, it's dynamic, right? Constantly dynamic. So that means that all of our one-year goals, we're going to have our arms around and be able to know whether or not we're meeting them or exceeding them or have a problem. Does that mean that every 90 days, which is 3 months, 90 days gives you, and why is it 90 days? Why do operating systems do 90 days? 1 month may not be enough time to get something done. 2 months gives you grace. 3 months gives you enough time to have had something you need to do, have had a problem with it, found an answer to it, resolved it, and got it complete. 3 months is a perfect, and it also fits a quarter, and there's, 4 of those in a year, right? So it all kind of works out. So that means every 90 days you identify rocks for your company. What are the things that are must-dos? What are the things we have got to do? As a group, you decide, what are the things we have to do in 90 days? And you may have 20, but you're going to pick 3 or 4. Why pick 20 when we eat a bite out of 20 sandwiches? We don't want to do that. We want to pick 3 or 4. And then every 7 days you have a meeting, and it's a level 10 meeting. And Greg, you're going to host the meeting, I think, right?
Yes.
Do you have so the meetings go same day, same time, same agenda. Boring for a reason. Boring is efficient. Have you decided when your meetings are going to be?
10:30 on Fridays? 10?
10:30? Friday, 10:30. Mark it in your calendars. Perpetuity. Friday at 10:30. Okay, so this is and I'll explain more of that, but that means that anything that you have to do is looked at on a weekly basis. For you, it's not like oversight. It's not like Big Brother coming, I need it, and that's not what this is about at all. This is about having a place where everything lives, where you can easily wrap your arms around it. And then this is my favorite, the issues list, the needs. I'm going to call it needs, right? So you have needs. There are things that you want to do. So there may be things that need to be better, lists that need to be filled out, workflows that need to be established, sign-off, hierarchy that needs to be understood, learning that needs to be done, whatever that is, it lives somewhere. And any ideas and opportunities, and then it divides it out and it says, hey, the things you can do in 90 days, we're going to hit those off at these weekly meetings. The things that are longer than 90 days live in a document that is constantly changing, because that then becomes the feeder for this, right? So everything that goes on here feeds into this every 90 days. So it sounds very, very structured, but in that structure is simplicity. It really is. How many times do you go to a meeting? Maybe you're just casually up for lunch with your team members, right? And you'll say, I've got a great idea. I was thinking about this the other day. Wouldn't it be great if we did such and such? Or, I saw an opportunity in Chelsea. I think that maybe we should do this for marketing. Or what happens? I've been thinking about this one workflow process, and it happened to me last week, and I think there's a hiccup there, and I think we need to somehow manipulate that. So all these things that are said in the corridor, that may be said in a mini meeting, maybe said at lunch, an idea that comes out, where do you put those things? Does somebody write them down on a notebook? Do you stick them in your pocket? Do you put them in your phone? Do you think about them and say, I better write that down when I get to work? a lot of that stuff gets lost, right? And that's what ends up happening. You have all these things that you want to do, and you have great intentions to do, but they just get lost in the everyday, just chugging, getting it all done. This is a place where they live. Every week, they get looked at. You know what happens when you look at something every week? What's the best way to go on a diet? Tell your friends. Are those French fries for lunch too? What's the name of that diet again? I like that. I'm not gonna go on that diet, right? Tell your friends. How do you get things done? Everybody knows, right? Everybody knows what's going on. Left hand, right hand. So that's the beauty right here, VOS. All right. Now, can someone give me a time check?
10:34.
Well, I'm off Tuesday.
Is it 10:34? Yeah, all right. All right, I'm gonna do, we're gonna just very quickly go through this part. This is not something that's on the table for today. It's not at all. But this is called hitting the ceiling. And there's something called evolution revolution. And all companies go through it, and you wanna go through it. If you don't go through it, you have a problem. And that basically is this. You evolve as a company, you hire more people, you get different clients, you decide that you're gonna maybe peek into a different area of law that you haven't, whatever. There's evolution, right? There's stuff going on. You get evolution, and then you get revolution. And revolution is not people. Sometimes it's people. Most of the time it's not people. The revolution is the fact that your systems and your processes and the things that are going on can't keep up with your evolution. So you have a revolution, and you change, and you tighten up, and you refine, or you make up something new altogether, or you get rid of something that is defunct and just really isn't working for what's happening in your business. And then you have another evolution, and then you have another revolution. But what happens is as you go through the process, the revolution starts being real tiny. It's just like a bump in the road. It's not some huge thing where you're finding yourself stretched, right? Because you don't want to do that if you can help it, and that's what this system will help with. So I will tell you that when we implemented the EOS system, that we didn't hit the ceiling, we just knocked ourselves unconscious. I mean, when we were at 20, Francois came to me and said he was tired. I'm like, we have hit the ceiling. So there's my little picture. And basically you can hit the ceiling all sorts of ways. As a company, as a department, right? That was my department. That was software department hitting the ceiling when Francois came and said, I'm tired. So, or you can hit it as an individual. So how many people you know that you've hit the ceiling when your whole team is talked out? You know what I mean by talked out? Like, you guys are all super talented and you can handle this much workload and do it to the exceptional result that you want, right? You want to do it well. You want to do it professional. You want it to be the best it can possibly be. Well, there's a limit to what you can do at that level. And being topped out is you're just underneath that level. You're almost topped out. You're almost there. Well, what happens when everybody in the company is almost topped out? When 2 or 3 people are topped out, you can swap stuff around sometimes, right? Like Tyler's super busy and, he really needs to do this and got to finish that. Maybe we can swap something out, or Spencer or Greg or Phil or any of you guys. But when everybody's almost topped out, there's nowhere to go, right? Where are you going to move all this? You're not going to be able to, get rid of it. You're going to have to do something with it. So it's too few or too many. Gaps, overlaps. So what's a gap? What do we mean by gap? No wrong answers, right? So, a gap, right? So you need something done and there's no one that was on the piece of paper to do it. How many times can you think of anything that has come up in the last 3 months that needed done and there was no one's name beside that box because it either had never happened before or happens rarely and there's no need to put a name by a box?
Heirs property, a paralegal will work on that because it's kind of new.
A new field, yeah, okay. So, right, gaps. And overlaps are just as bad. What is overlap then? Right? You guys do it all the time. Have you ever done something and you just want to make extra sure that it was, like, you did it, but you just want to make extra sure that it was received on the other end the way that you wanted it to be received and make sure, right? How many times do you do that? Pop in someone's office, hey, you did get that stuff, right? Or make a phone call or send a second email, right? Double check. Why do you double check? Because you're good at what you do, right? You want to make sure. That's called overlap. That's called overlap. That's too many people, too much time, overlap of resources, right? We do it all day long, right? Double check, double check, double check. That's a lot of time, that's a lot of resources, and you go home very tired. And then at 6 o'clock at night while you're eating your, burrito in your Barco lounger there, you're like, oh, God, I did that, right? Right? It's true. I mean, that's the way that's how it operates. Okay, so, very quickly, when you hit the ceiling, 4 things that it's gonna teach you to do, that's gonna be in that toolbox. Remember that that toolbox of 20 tools. So we'll look at those later, the ability to simplify, which is where we're going right now, the ability to delegate and elevate. So, right, you elevate people so they can do what they do best more often than doing the other stuff. That's what you want to do. Your ability to predict. Get up out of the weeds, get up the ladder, look at your landscape. As a team, you have to be able to long-term predict and you have to be able to short-term predict. Okay? In my business, I had to have business in my pipeline for 10 weeks. If I didn't have business in my pipeline, 94 people were going to starve, we're not going to have a salary. So I had to make sure that I had that much business coming in, that much business scheduled. So that's why I went after government contracts and defense contracts, because they would pay you out. Most corporations would come and say, hey Lisa, we're going to give you X amount of money, and we're going to say that you're going to train 100 people. We don't even need to know what it's going to be in, but we want to spend our training budget. So sign us up for 100 people, and later as your schedule comes out, we'll pick and swap and decide who comes where, right? Government contracts, beautiful, right? They're great. They say, hey, we're gonna contract with you for a year. Sometimes they were a year, sometimes they were 2. Wonderful. Put people in my pipeline. I had to make sure my pipeline. So we always had to be climbing up. We didn't do that first 18 months. We weren't there yet. And so what was happening is it was just like, please let people come through the door. Then too many people would come through the door, and we were just like this. So, and short-term predicting is what you do in your meetings, right? You're going to short-term predict for the next week. And systemize. Systemize, and structure. And we'll look at structure for just a minute. And we're just going to take a quick perusal right through culture, right? Culture is probably the most important thing in any business. Now, I will tell you, I have gone in, right? I probably brought 100 people over into an operating system in my lifetime, probably more than 100. Culture is the one thing that makes all the difference in the world. You can have a very successful company with a very toxic culture, and they still make money, and their doors are still open, but it's not a really nice place to be, and they have a horrible, horrible turnover. And why do you have turnover? Because you do not fit with the values of your company. But if the values of your company are not really clear, and they have not been talked about and decided collaboratively, then you often find that you get people that don't fit that value system and that vision that you have, right? And you get some turnover. So, culture code, Daniel Cole, I think it's here somewhere, I did bring it. And there's really 4 great big things to culture. If you feel safe in your culture and you feel supported, has anything ever happened? Like in your life, in your business life, when you thought, oh God, someone's gonna be mad at me, but nobody was mad at you. They were all like, hey, it's okay, it's all right, it happens. We'll just walk over it. Let's just make it right. It's no big deal. That feeling of being supported in your own business as a team member is the most important thing. And some companies don't get that. You guys obviously get that. I mean, I could just walk into a room and just feel that you guys have an amazing culture, and that is a good thing. But culture just doesn't happen. Culture has to be nourished. It has to be fed. It has to be embraced. And that is something that everyone does. It's not your fearless leader. It's not it's a thing that we all do together. And you have to have a purpose. And that's where I'm like, you got to get out of the weeds, because people have to feel like they can get their heads up and feel like they have a purpose as a team member on the team. That's what's so important. That's what feeds us as far as culture is concerned. And that's what this is supposed to do and is going to do. There's another great book, Creativity, Ed Catmull. I think everyone's seen Toy Story, right? We probably have all seen that. Well, anyway, it's a really good book, and it just talks about culture, how they did Toy Story, and it was just amazing. It was a hit. Kids loved it. You couldn't get enough of it, right? Well, they went to go do number 2, Toy Story number 2. Well, they had something else. This is at Pixar Studios. They had something else they wanted to do, so they took everybody from the first Toy Story and they moved them over, and they said, well, you guys already know how to do that. Go make this happen again. And so they brought in a whole new team for the second one, and it just about died. I mean, it just almost never came to fruition because they really just thought that their processes were so good that you could just stick another team in there, and it didn't work that way. The team is what made that animation come to life, with just that whole culture they had. So they brought the old team back, and Toy Story 2 existed. All right, structure. Do you guys need a break? Everybody want a 5-minute break, get some more coffee? Be a good time. Let's do that. Let's take a break. Then we're gonna look at structure.
Is it cold?
I'm freezing.
You guys need to swap seats.
We
then.
sat in the right place in the desk.
I
know Lee's not coming by the fire.
I need some coffee.
All right, man, I'm gonna come get some wood.
We got every nature, from the extreme to the extreme to the extreme.
Do you want something or need something, Lisa?
Sorry?
Do you want something?
I want to get a coffee. I get a coffee. I don't think I'm gonna see that. It's so much money.
I mean, we might get the lunch break last.
I'll just walk up
It's 10:30. It's 10:30, you said?
Try to.
Okay.
Yeah, 2:45. We could go to a
Well, I'd like to get to Ross.
What you doing, Chameleon?
I wanted so bad to look at you when I was saying that. Like, I can do it all.
can't wait for Tyler to lean up and go like that.
Come get one.
That left me long ago.
From one over the other.
Oh, I know.
That's why I'm saying Kelly for me.
Are you? Come on here, Sherry. Are you coming over here?
You wanna come over here too also?
I'm okay.
I'm worried about it.
I'll really pull your chair. There's papers for you. I will pull you. Sherry, I'm moving you on. Y'all don't be cutting up over here together. Sherry needs to be warm. I separated all the Ashland people, so y'all act right if y'all sit together.
Please, everything. Oh, I see y'all.
Oh, yeah.
Beth said there's Oh my God. Oh, I got a coffee. Yeah. Oh, I just had asthma so bad this morning after the dog did take over the shots and they make you just like jittery, like boy, you're like, you're just like, I hate those things. Is there nothing else that you can taste that doesn't make you? triggers, right?
Oh,
Oh, yeah. We have horses, dogs, cats. We had sheep, goats. I'm just like, so today, you know, I love my dogs from before, but today I opened up the back door and I was putting stuff in, I ran in my house. And I go back up and I'm in my back seat, my whole store. Had to go in and get myself a shot, take a shot.
That's her.
And I asked her, I said, you know, Beth, I don't think I've ever met her, but here she's so fancy. Yeah, hi, Eric. That is a treat.
I think I'm gonna have to have a hot chocolate since Sherry booted me out.
Oh, she did you?
No, I didn't boot her, she volunteered.
We can get that.
I brought it too.
Did you?
Yeah.
You're the number
It's
one.
not bad when you get cookies.
That's right.
You know, it's not bad when you get cookies.
I turned the heat up. Now y'all gonna get hot, and I'm gonna hear.
I know.
You
The cocoa is good, baby.
Isn't it? Wow. That is good.
You said, oh, I always caught my senses. It made me think about the vet when you're tongue and turn over and no. Yeah. That's like a badass. That's what's hitting me. Ooh, that's a badass.
Exactly.
No organization whatsoever.
Exactly. And it sure does show, doesn't it?
Yes, ma'am.
You know, it sure does show.
And it's been a long time. That's why I was like, that's not equal. Yeah.
And it's, you know, in the type of business you guys are in, there's just so much detail to everything. Detail, detail, detail.
That was the part of the problem. Yeah, 'cause there's no. You know what I mean?
Oh, I
You're
did.
saying it, right? You know. I remember back in the old days when I voted, and I started calling in 2010 until all the way up to October 2018.
And that's why, right?
I'm not used to seeing you casual, Phil.
What'd you say?
I'm not used to seeing you
I think
casual.
everybody in Ashland says that. I told, who did I tell yesterday? No, it was a gym.
Working in the business.
Cause I was in sweats and I was like, I used to dress, it's like I give,
Yeah.
cause like JC will come in in sweats all the time. And I'm like, if nobody's gonna see me, I might as well just wear sweats.
Oh, great.
That's exactly what this does, right? Everybody gets-
My son loves
Says
sweat.
what's going on, let's take a poll.
That's my favorite. I need more pair. I feel like I used to wear casual clothes in general.
In my
Like
closet.
I wish I had, I need like hoodie.
Need you a hoodie?
Dude, I don't have, I've got like, I own like one hoodie. And I like that more. There's nothing better than like just a full-on sweatsuit outfit. I love it.
Chris, did you get warm? I stepped back.
I did. I got some hot chocolate too. That'll hot and down
You got away.
Pardon me?
You got away.
Oh, that's right. Thank you. I don't think that's what it came from.
Funny.
Way Beth is fed us then.
Oh, yeah.
Well, there's still this sweet back there. You say that, Christie?
I'm telling you.
Did you say the sign that says the civil suite?
Oh, no, I hadn't been back there. I will though, I'll go check it out. Just Jasmine told me about the, Susan.
And you were doing like local sales.
Yes, yes. But Kinston does, but then
Beth, can I help you? Bill, are you a big home builder?
I am to a fault.
You know when I'm. Get bored in the comments like, I just bring all this.
Now that is next
That's
level.
got that.
That is. So the way I drive from like towards downtown Birmingham,
Right.
from there to Chelsea, to
Oh,
our
okay.
office,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
passing two Starbucks. So it's tough. I know.
Even if I really could pay, like, I just make super small calls. And you pay $6 for it. It's not just like, you gotta help in the search.
I pay $4 more. And I get it.
Yeah, but you deserve it.
That's
But we
about
still,
it.
it's not, it's good, right?
I feel on your buddy right now. They let me out of the,
Did you go to a fire?
I did. For college.
Yeah.
Don't get warm. Hey, ask a question. I mean, would you marry?
Nieces. Is that Alabama?
No. There's not enough money though.
You know what? 55 is not nothing.
Wait, oh, communication. Oh, stop.
Cause Tyler will tell you, I'm scary, aren't I, Tyler?
What do y'all have? $1
Because you're
He'll
still.
do what? Actually, it's only gonna be like his sister's
I gotta say,
house.
Right.
I think any type of.
Who's this?
Yeah, $55 million. She asked me if I'd marry her.
Would you marry?
For $55 million, I consider it.
I mean,
You have under $20 million. I would.
I'll definitely fight
Look, we all know there's only one person in this room. I ain't got to
Wait a minute. Well, he's right. If you count all of his kids and all of that, and then Castillo, and what his mom's in it. See, he won't be getting, his mom is like 42 million. And so he'll have to split that with his sister. So he's probably 21 to 22 million when she dies.
It's all steel, right?
But I grew up, we just, all my sisters from high school, if it's not a color or a button up,
I would hope that,
But I don't know about underground.
you know, obviously his grandparents,
When my niece was out, she said,
they work hard.
Until she finished her done anything.
That's what I mean.
Diamond says,
So when I was in Alabama, there was.
you hurt Ruthie. He don't believe.
I said that. I started acting. Just living off more.
It's all, it truly is.
It is.
That's fine. Get us a
I will double check. I say that. It is. I will.